Good morning, Imago Dei kids. My name is Leo, and I'm giving announcements for us today.
Announcements. Oh, yeah.
Last week we heard about the pineapple of the spirit, patience. What?
Fruit.
Yeah. Fruit of the spirit, patience. This week we will hear a story about kindness.
Yeah. Kindness. Yeah.
Before we hear more about pineapple, let's celebrate the people who have birthdays this week.
Yay.
If you had a birthday this week, we want to send a blessing over you. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah. Imago Kids is now supporting our houseless neighbors through the Portland Rescue Mission. God made our houseless neighbors.
God bless 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 our houseless neighbors.
Yay! Woohoo! Yay! Yay!
Today, Park Awesome is happening at Lewitt View Park. Hope you can come join us. We'd love to see you.
Yay!
We want to reopen our kids' rooms and we need volunteers. If your grown-up can join our kids team on Sunday mornings, please email kids@idcpdx.com.
Yay!
Yep.
Go.
Hello, Imago Kids. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we've been going through the fruits of the Spirit this summer. We've been thinking about what it looks like to be with God, and when we are close with God, we get to see the display of His glory, the fruit of being connected to Him. And those fruits look like love. We've heard about joy. We've listened to some stories about peace. And we've had a good challenge about patience. And this week, we are going to talk about kindness. Before we start talking about kindness, I want you to go ahead and pause and have a conversation with the people around you. What comes to your mind when you think of someone who is kind? Who do you know that is a really kind person? How do you know that? What do they act like? How can you tell that they are a kind person? When we come back, we'll have a story of a man who met Jesus. We hear about him in the Bible, in the New Testament. And this man was changed from someone who was not kind to someone who was extremely kind. Because, just like the Bible tells us, it is God's kindness that draws us to Him. And out of that kindness that God shows us, we get to participate in more and more beautiful fruit. Hi, everybody. I'd like you to meet Zacchaeus. This is the man who met Jesus and was changed forever. Zacchaeus experienced what it was like to become a very kind person. Before Zacchaeus met Jesus, he was not a kind person. His job was to go around and collect the money that people owed to the government. Everybody has to do this when they grow up. Your grown-ups pay something called taxes. It helps for the post office to run and our roads to be built. It does all sorts of important things. So Zacchaeus would go around collecting people's taxes. But Zacchaeus, because he had not experienced such goodness of God in his life yet, had made some pretty selfish choices. I know what it's like to make some selfish choices. You might too. Zacchaeus made the choice that when he would tell people how much money they owed, he would add on an extra amount that he would keep for himself. So pretend he was going to his neighbor, Sam, saying, "Sam, you owe $17. $17? Yes, $17. But turned out only 5 of that had to go to the government, and Zacchaeus was taking the rest of it and putting it in his pockets, keeping it for himself. This was not a beautiful thing, but it is true about what Zacchaeus had decided to live like. So one day, Zacchaeus had heard that there was this really important teacher coming to town. And remember, Zacchaeus is small. He's a lot smaller than his neighbor Sam. And when a lot of grown-up people who are tall and big gather around to see something, do you know what that's like when you're small? You can't see anything, right? So he kept edging around his neighbors, trying to get a look at the person who was coming down the road, this really important teacher. And he couldn't get a look. So what Zacchaeus did is he went over to the closest tree. In the Bible, it's a sycamore tree. Today, it's a Christmas tree. And he climbed the tree so that he could see over the heads of the people that were blocking his view to see the very important teacher. And you might know who this very important teacher was. It was Jesus. Jesus was coming to town, and he was walking down the path, and he turned and saw Zacchaeus hanging out on the very top of the tree in order to be able to see who was coming, the very important teacher. And when Jesus saw Zacchaeus, you know what he said to him? He didn't say, "Why are you climbing trees? That's not good for that tree." He said to Zacchaeus, "Zacchaeus, please come down. I'm going to come to your house today to have dinner." And Zacchaeus was so surprised, he said, "Okay." And he and Jesus went back to his house where Jesus and him shared a meal. And Jesus probably had some wonderful things and some hard things to say to Zacchaeus about who God was and who he wanted Zacchaeus to be. And what happened in Zacchaeus' heart as he was drawn near to God through the presence of Jesus was that Zacchaeus realized he had been taking all of this money from people, and it wasn't honest and it wasn't kind. And he wanted to be a kind person. He wanted to be more like Jesus. So you know what Zacchaeus did? He took all of the money that he owed other people and he paid it back to them. Not just the amount that he stole, and not just double the amount, not just triple the amount, but 4 times the amount that he stole, he gave back to everybody he had taken from. Isn't that amazing? Zacchaeus was so changed by being near God that he came to realize he wanted to be honest. He wanted to not just be honest, but he wanted to go above and beyond in being kind and generous and giving beyond what he had taken in the first place. When we are near to God and we invite him to see our hearts, help us to know what it is to be kind to one another, to be shaped into a people of kindness, he will show us all sorts of things. And here's the really awesome trick. I bet that Zacchaeus, when he decided to start giving the money back and giving even more than he had taken back, you know what I bet he felt? I bet he felt a lot of joy, because it is really fun to give, and it is really fun to be free of the guilt of hurting other people, of deciding to not be that way anymore, and to give abundantly, sacrificially back to those that he had hurt. So today, I want to invite you to do a kindness challenge. And sometimes in our homes when we're growing up, the people that we're near to can be the hardest to be the kindest to. Have you ever noticed this? Maybe it's your brother or your sister, or maybe even the grown-ups in your home. It can be really hard to be kind to them. One way that we can choose to be kind is to take some time to consider that person. So here's my invitation to you today. Love you to think about someone in your house that you could show kindness to. Maybe it's everybody in your house that you could show kindness to. What's one way this week you can show kindness to someone in your house? Is there something that you need to repent from, just like Zacchaeus did? And he said sorry, and he gave back what he took, even beyond what he took. And he experienced closeness with God as he did this. So here's my challenge to you, is to show kindness, but remember that kindness needs to come out of being close to God. It's not something we can just digging deep. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be kind. We can do that for a little bit, but it's not nearly as fun or as life-giving. What you do is to ask God, would you come near me and teach me how to be kind? Please show me what it looks like to be kind. And when he gives you an idea, he gives you someone in your brain, you think of, oh, this is the person I could be kind to. And you ask God, how can I be kind this week? And he gives you an idea like go clean their room or do the dishes or write them a note. Kindness can look like all sorts of things. And it is God's kindness that brings us to him and allows us to be in his presence, forgiven and redeemed and being sanctified. I hope that this week you experience a lot of joy as you ask God what it looks like to be kind this week to somebody that lives in your house. Love you guys and miss you so very much.